Welcome to the Premium Sheet. We're excited to have you here. There's a lot of interesting pieces of content that we have available for writers to take on this sheet. Some of that content consists of articles that are typically centered around generalized topics or keywords. We also have things like product descriptions and category descriptions, which you would find, on an e-commerce site, as well as like meta descriptions and things like that. So there's a lot of different types of content, and you'll get more familiar with these types of content as you go along. But let me just kind of explain to you the first thing you'll see when you get to the Premium Sheet, which is this neat dashboard that we've put together. On this dashboard, there's a lot of information. Some of this stuff is just for fun, where we show some of the leading writers, and all of this information is in real time, so it changes. It's very dynamic. The first thing you'll see on here is how many pieces of content are available on this sheet that have not been selected. So that'll give you a quick idea right up front how much stuff is available. Then we also have a queue where we have lots of content sitting there waiting to be put on this sheet. So we also show you that number. So as of today, there's 3,000 just waiting to be put on this sheet. So there's a lot of work typically on this sheet, which is a great team to be a part of. If you scroll down, there's other information that you can peruse at your leisure. But let's go ahead and get into the actual part of the sheet that has the work available and explain to you all of that information. So the way that you get to the part where the assignments are is you simply click on the Assignments tab at the bottom of this sheet. Here at the top, you'll see that we have information that's important. So every single project has a style guide. The style guide explains what is needed in the project, how to write it, the format, those types of things. It's basically an instruction sheet to help you know how to write content for a specific project with even finished examples, so that you have an idea of how the content should read and flow when it's finished. So at the very, very top, you'll see that we have a username and password. These change, but the username and password is up here to be able to access the style guides, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm just going to go over all the columns and information on this sheet so you can kind of see how it works. We also have the number of articles available, which you saw on the previous dashboard, and then we have the number of blocks that you can have selected at a time. We call groups of articles blocks. So for example, if we look at this, you can see that there's a block of 2 articles here, that these rows are white, and then there's a block of 2 gray articles here. So what we're saying is at any given time, you can have 3 blocks of articles selected. So if I have 3 blocks of articles selected and I finish and write 1 block and send it in, then I'm eligible to select another one. I can have a total of 3 selected at a time. Now that rule can change based on how much work that we have, and we can tell you when we're allowing people to have more than 3 blocks, but just make sure you look at this number, as it does change. It is dynamic. Alright, so let's go ahead and start here at the main columns on line 4 and go over what they mean. So the very first thing we have is word count. This shows the minimum word count that your article should be, or piece of content that you're writing should be. So for example, this one has to be at least 310 words. The next column is the rate. So this is the rate that we're actually paying you to write this piece of content. We tell you that right up front before you even select it, so that you know exactly how much you're going to be paid for writing that piece of content and doing it at the standards that we've asked for to make it acceptable. The next column is the URL column. The URL column is typically the column where there's reference information for you to use to help you to write the content. This URL column is also very typically the URL of the client who's ordering the content. So make sure that you check in your style guide to know what information is in the URL column, but that URL column is usually very important, so please make sure you read the style guide to understand if it's reference information or if it's the website of the client who you're writing for. Either way, make sure you look at it so that you have context for when you write out your content. The next column is the article topic column. Now, not every single piece of content will come with a topic, but a lot of them will. So the client will provide us with, a generalized topic or, an idea or focus that they want you to write the content about. The next column is the keyword column. This column is extremely important. Clients do a lot of keyword research to be able to see how they can rank well on Google with their content. So that means that we have to make sure that the keyword that's listed in this column is somewhere in the content. The style guide will tell you how many times it should be in the content, but all the keywords that are listed here need to be in it. So for example, this row right here has 3 keywords that they want in the content. So they have mold growth, flooding, and mold removal. So in this individual piece of content, I would need to make sure that all 3 of those keywords exist, and then I would want to make sure that I check out the style guide to see how many times each keyword should be in that content. Moving on, we have a special instructions column. This is great because the style guide gives us a general instructions on how to write these pieces of content, but the special instructions can give you a specific focus or a specific instruction for that individual piece of content that you're writing. So again, not all clients use this, but it is here in case clients do use it, and it's very important to make sure that you pay attention to. Another column is the article column. Now this one you don't have to worry too much about because every single row is its own individual piece of content. So we put a number 1 here just for us on our end. You don't need to worry about it. You may have noticed that some of the columns are different colors. Some are green, and the green ones mean that those are ones that you can edit. So for example, the writer name is a column that you would use to select an article. We'll get into that in a minute, but it's a drop down where you want to pick your name. If your name isn't listed in there, please let us know because it has to be in there for this to work for you to be able to select an article. The next column is the date selected. This is the same type of thing as the writer name column in that there is a drop down for you to pick the date that you selected an article. When you select the day, it will automatically populate a due date for you, which is in the very next column, and that due date will show you when the content is due. That is a very important thing. Please make sure that you pay attention to this. Content must be in on time, or else you're at risk of forfeiting pay, and you're at risk of having somebody else take your articles if you do not send them in on time, even if you completed them. Getting your articles in on time is extremely important to us and to our clients. The next column is the title of article. Once you've completed your content, you'll want to put the title of the content in here. You'll also want to make sure that the text is in black. If it isn't, you just simply select the column and change the text color to black. After you've submitted something, you might come back to the sheet and you'll see that these columns here are marked in red. That's okay. That's the manager marking your column in red, signifying that they've sent it back to the client. The biggest thing that you just need to worry about is when you first initially put your title in, that it is in black. Now there's also some other columns that you may see pop up here on the right. For example, there's a brand column for certain clients where there is additional information here. There could be other columns that pop up on the right as they are dynamic. They'll have something to do with your article if it states so in the style guide of your content. So just make sure that you go to the style guide to understand if there's any additional information. Now let's talk about the rows of this sheet. If you scroll down, you'll see that there are blue lines that kind of go down the sheet. The blue line is just a line to segregate a client's order. So for example, on line 38, ServPro is the client, and they're ordering the content below right here until the next client order shows up on the sheet. So on this blue line, we usually will have the name of the client as well as a link to the style guide, which we'll go over shortly, and then the account manager over this. So if you have any questions about this order or some of the information on a specific piece of content that you're writing, write the account manager. They're more than happy to help you. And then a lot of times too, you'll see like on line 39, that there will be a tan bar underneath the client line. This is just for the manager to give you additional information. This tan bar can be used to give some additional instructions for this specific order, or even sometimes, this line will be used to relabel columns if there's different types of information that the client gives. So it's very important to make sure that you look at the client line as well as if there is a tan bar underneath, to see what information is there. If there's any confusion, please email the account manager listed on the blue client line to be able to get some clarification. Now, as we scroll down the sheet, we do like to prioritize work, and the way that we do that is with a black line. So if you see a black line, it means that everything above the black line has to be selected and picked by somebody before work below can be selected. We do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps us to make sure that work that's been sitting on this sheet that's old gets done first before new work is picked up, and it also helps us to meet deadlines for our clients so that we can make sure that we get orders done in a timely fashion. Alright, that's basically it. In the next video, we'll show you how to select a piece of content, and we'll see you there.